In part 2 to the introduction to Illustrator and the pen tool, we're going to be using the lines we've created in the first 3 boxes and incorporate them in the 3 boxes below. Let's begin. So, to make it easier to move these lines from box 1 to box 4, we're going to use the selection tool and drag over the lines we want selected, and we're going to group them. And the easiest way to group is going Command or Control G. Otherwise you could right click and group, or in this case ungroup. So they've been selected. Command C will make a copy. We're going to scroll down to box 4 and we're going to hit Command V. Now this isn't where we want them, so we can select them and drag them into position. And remembering that we still have the snap to grid on, so as we use the arrows on the keyboard, this will shift them in the increments of the grid. Okay, so that's done for the horizontals, and we can give these a color. So we want to make sure that the color that we give is the stroke. So bring the stroke to the top of the fill, and you can either double click and get the color picker, or you can go to the swatches on the far right palette. I'll just drag this over and select a color. So I'm going to go with primaries, so blue lines for now. Okay, now let's get our vertical lines. So we've got selection tool, drag halfway, Command C, go back to box 4, Command V. Oh, we didn't group them, so we better group them now before we deselect them. Command G, and put them into position and give these a color. There are 2 different weights of the stroke. The weight is 2 points for the red and 1 point for the blue. I think the blue lines are more dense, so if we want to change that for the red lines, for a start we can turn them back to 1 point, and if we hit Command C, Command F, there we have the same density of lines as the blue. Our design now, which is basically an empty square, vertical lines in red, crisscrossing, and we have horizontal blue. Now you can do whatever you want in this space. You can treat your work in halves, or you can treat the work in quadrants. So I'm going to take this again, Command C, Command F, and I'm going to take it to the other side and Command C, F. Whoops. I think I like one more line, so I'm just going to add another line right here. There we go. But once I've done that, what I'd like to do is something which would make it a little bit more interesting. I've selected this group, and now I'm going to drag that whole group up. Essentially, you're working with lines running horizontally and vertically in 2 colors. Treat the lines within quadrants or within the halves, but it's up to you how you organize them and what stroke weight you apply to them. Lines running horizontally and vertically and diagonally in one direction plus 3 colors. We go to the top and we can make our selection. I'm going to go one extra this time. There we go. Command C, Command V, make sure they're grouped, so that's Command G. Go to my horizontals. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this line can be green. The verticals can be red or blue. They're too heavy. I'll go back to 1 point, make them thinner again. And finally, we have, I think this time I'll use orange, a red orange, as opposed to a red. Now, as you work in box number 5 with lines running horizontally, vertically, and diagonally in 3 colors, you can treat each quadrant as a separate little box, or you can overlap, or you can do this. Command C, Command V, change the point weight to 1. Now, this is something that you'll like, I hope. With the line segment tool, we're going to click and drag from one end of the box to the other and make a straight line. Now, we need to select the horizontal line we've just created and the diagonal lines we've just added. So, hold the Shift key, select the diagonal lines and the horizontal line. We can now do this really fancy thing using the shape builder. I haven't spoken about the shape builder, but it's probably one of the handiest tools in Illustrator. Okay, so let's select the shape builder, and whilst you're holding the Option key, what you get is this little minus. We want to get rid of the top lines. Option key and start going across. And now we can get rid of that line as well. Now we can give this a color. Let's make it the same color as the other diagonal lines, and the best way to do that is by going to the Eyedropper tool. Make sure you have the object you want to change selected. Then with the Eyedropper tool, go on any other object and click on it, and it will transfer that color, even line weight, to the object that's selected. Play in box number 5 using lines that run horizontally, vertically, diagonally, and apply 3 colors. In the last box, I'm going to commence by just copying over box 5 into box 6, and then I'm going to modify those lines. Well, let's start by selecting the diagonal lines in that one quadrant and moving them into a rotated position. I seem to have an extended line which I really need to get rid of. Remember, go to the eraser tool, then select the scissors tool and snip. Click off, click back onto the line you want to delete, remembering it's still grouped, so if I go delete or backspace, it's going to get rid of everything. We don't want that, so we want to select it with the direct selection tool. Click off, click on, and then delete. We need to have diagonal lines running in 2 different directions, so we can take that and now we can rotate it. And there's 2 ways we can do this. Either go to the corner, hold the Shift key and rotate, and while you hold the Shift key, it'll rotate at 45 and at 90 degrees. And we need to change its color. So we need to introduce a 4th color, and maybe yellow should be that color. And you'll notice that for some reason I'm on the fill and not on the stroke, so I've changed the fill, which does not affect the line. So we need to change that by hitting this arrow and then knocking out the fill and putting the stroke on top. And let's click off so we can have a better look. There we go. This is an opportunity for you to play with the possibilities of line direction and color. So play and complete the last box. When you are done, go to the Layers palette and turn on the two top layers, which are hidden. This will give you a boundary around each box. And then the next is this Windows layer, which basically blocks out all the annotation and headings, and you've got a nice clean presentation. So once you've done that, save your work. That's Command S or Control S. Then what I'd like you to do is to save as a PDF. And this is pretty straightforward. You can select a PDF from the Save As window and just choose PDF and save that, because that's what you'll be uploading. And save. And that's you done. So please upload the PDF once you have completed the task.